Hello there, and welcome to tonight's session of late night world building. Now, we got a little bit of a mild ear infection here at the Soul System, so we just thought, listen to some Bob Ross for the first time and, maybe go ahead and get a little bit inspired for some creative work. And I thought, it'd just be real nice since I can't do too much thinking. We'll just build a small world, just an example to show that anyone can build a world. Doesn't have to be something major. Now, I got a few ideas prepped going into this. I thought about it for maybe like half an hour or something. I didn't do too much though. I was kind of idling my brain as I did other things, and now I'll just go ahead and get what I thought already down on the paper. And now, normally I'd have, some kind of, what's the word, piece of paper or it's a good old-fashioned drawing tablet, whatever you've got to hand. That really helps with that just helps get your ideas down. It's no big deal. Nothing to be too concerned about what material you're using. But we'll just go ahead and get started. I like to sketch out a map of my worlds nice and early. It's don't gotta be nothing fancy. You can just draw some, maybe we got a disc world. Maybe there's a hole in the center of it. We make a nice donut world. Nice and easy, comfort world building stuff. Now, of course, we need to figure out what our world's gonna be like, all that kind of stuff. And what I like to do, I really like to do something interesting with the cosmology, so we're gonna go ahead and put a nice green sun at the center of this disk. There we go. Doesn't that look nice? And that's gonna go ahead and put out some green mana into the world, because, we can just do what we want. It doesn't need to be realistic or anything. And then maybe the plants of this world, we'll just go ahead and draw one up here in the corner for an example. Maybe they take in that green mana because they're colored green nice and well. Doesn't that sound nice? I'd really like that. Now you can see my art quality's nothing special, but nobody but you's ever got to see this, even if you're going to be running your game for your players. You just want to get your ideas down onto paper to start with. And here's another thing that I thought of. I just thought it'd be real nice to add some, maybe something a little bit bioluminescent to each of our, let me see here. I got a good spray brush in here. I like to use this when I'm drawing with just a mouse. Helps add a little bit of glow to what I'm making. Oh, let's just go ahead and undo that, and then we'll just add some nice subtler brush strokes. Just a little something to imply that this is a nice blue glowing mana source. We can go ahead and draw outside the bounds a little bit. That's nice. That'll make it look like it's, emitting some magical energy. Maybe the plants convert green mana into blue mana. That's what living things are made of in this world. That's what all their bones and all their other structures are made of. And we're just gonna make this a nice little peaceful world. So now that we've decided, I was gonna have slimes be a bunch of different colors, and you can do that. Because I was gonna make this little slime world. But now I've decided, we're going for this sort of color-themed mana, kind of off the cuff. And this isn't a world that I'm going to be sticking with for a long time, so let's go ahead and make a cute little blob creature, you know? Kind of round them out. Give them some nice little eyes. Just cute little dorky eyes. Yep, that's a nice little creature right there. Then what we'll go ahead and do, I just realized we're drawing in the background. That's not very smart of me. But that's okay. Nobody else is going to see this, so we just draw back over it. I'll go and add another layer. Obviously, on paper and pencil, you can just erase whatever you want. It doesn't have to look nice, whether you got a good eraser or not. And then what I think I'd really like for this world, I think it'd be really pretty to have this sun oscillate back and forth through the center. I just think that that's a nice visual. And then, we gotta have something, maybe the sun's illuminating up into the sky when it's not present through this little hole here. And maybe you get these dim neon lights. We'll just go ahead and draw those over in these corners. Maybe we'll get some nice warm colors that come out of that. Maybe you got some nice reds, yellows, orange. Yeah, well, we'll just go ahead and increase the size here a little bit. Something like that. Now this isn't real pretty, but that's okay. We're just trying to get our ideas down onto paper. Now, the idea that I have for this, I'm sure that you're familiar with this. I'm sure that you're familiar with all these beautiful little patterns, wonderful silly little things that they got going on in arcades. Maybe something like this, I don't know. There's a nice bowling alley. Something along these lines is just the patterns throughout our sky, but maybe they're made out of reds and oranges and yellow. They have those nice warm mana colors. Yep, that sounds nice to me. I like that a lot. And then, just to represent that, we'll go ahead and do some streaks of other colors through our thing. And then we'll just write a little text reminder here. So then we have we'll just call it neon carpet. It's just got to be a reminder for us. It doesn't have to be anything special. And then we'll go ahead and make sure that that's in the right color so we can see it against this particular kind of background. Oh, and it looks like I messed it up there. That's okay. Be a lot easier in paper and pencil like I normally do, but I'm just doing it on here for y'all's benefit. That's okay. It's no big deal. We just want to go ahead, sketch out what we want this world to be like. Now maybe things convert this mana into different colors too. Maybe we got some nice warm colored mushrooms. Let's go ahead and draw one of those in here. And they absorb that nice red mana. Doesn't that sound nice? I think that would sound nice. Now, here's just a good time to remind you that, your world doesn't have to look like mine. If you want to make yours a political landscape, if that's what makes you happy on a late night world building session, you just go right ahead. I feel like that a lot of nights. But not tonight. We're just going to go ahead and add some nice red speckles in here. That's a very silly looking mushroom. Alright, and then now as we go ahead and bring it down, there'll be some nice pink mana that comes out of this mushroom cap and flows into its mycelia. Doesn't that look nice? Oh yes, mine are nice. And you know what? Maybe there are different color slimes in this world. Maybe we got some that have mostly pink mana on their surface. Maybe those are a little bit smaller. Maybe it's just these two particular slimes are different sizes. We'll give this one some really itty bitty eyes. I think that'd be cute. You know what? We'll throw a third eye in there. Why not? These don't need to look like humans after all. But if you do want to make your world with humans, that's okay too. Don't let anybody judge you for making another medieval European analog or a fantastical land that's nice and silly and peaceful. You just build whatever you feel like now. And what we'll go ahead and do now, we'll just go ahead and bring over some of these ideas. We'll write them down into a document. No, I'm not going to do that right now because, you got limited time and I don't want to waste it writing down my ideas. What you should really be doing, this should just be setting the sparks twirling in your own brain. Maybe you just think about what you would build. What would you add to this silly little slime world? Would you make a quest about the players trying to travel through the center of this ring to one idea I came up with that I thought was really cute. Maybe they're carrying adamantine to the other side, and then they're going to bring some macalzite back. I don't know what those are. You can decide what that is. Maybe it's some potent sources of particular colors of mana that only grow on one side of the disc. Maybe they gotta travel around the outside and it's nice and frosty. There's some ice all around the edges. You get a nice, like, crossing the threshold type deal where they enter a barren landscape and dangerous monsters are out there. I don't know, maybe you do sort of a journey through the center of the earth type deal and there's different biomes as they go further through. And now's a great time to mention as well, you don't have to do world building just for your D&D games. You can build worlds that make you happy whether other people are going to play in them or not. Oh yeah, there's no problem with that at all. You know what, I'm just looking at these once again and I think it'd be really cute if we just gave it a little speckled, maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe we just add some yellow dots, these red dots on this mushroom. That just implies all the colors that it's drawn from those nightlights. Up in the sky that charge during the day and then rain down. Red, orange, and yellow mana all over the world at night. Gives it that nice sunset hues, dim. Just at the start of night, maybe. Maybe it fades out into blackness in the early morning hours, right before the sun comes up. That sounds nice. Now I know our voice is a little bit silly, we don't sound anything like Bob Ross. That's okay. You can use whatever mental loopholes you gotta do to make yourself feel comfortable. You can talk super serious, or you can be silly and goofy. That's alright, we're just building worlds now. So then one of the things I like to do once I've gotten some ideas down onto paper, we'll write down some of the key concepts in this world. And you can call it whatever you want. Maybe they're thematic focuses that you want to keep to. Like maybe it's peaceful, lighthearted, kind of the tone that you want to keep and what kind of stories you want to tell. Maybe you write down a few. Maybe we use the colored mana system. For magic. Maybe that's really cool. Maybe we want to focus on exploration. Different places on this here world. Maybe that'd be a cool thing for a nice one shot if you're going through the center. Or maybe you do all around the ring here, there's a whole bunch of different things. Or exploring over the edge and all the crazy stuff that nobody's ever found out there, because there's just so much land out there. Maybe nobody's ever gotten to it. Oh, whoops, I forgot how we're doing things here. There we go. That all looks good to me. So those are a few of our key concepts. We got denizens. So we got people here. So, if we got beautiful night skies to look at because of the cosmology work that I did, and you don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. You can do whatever speaks to you. If you want to make loads of different people to inhabit your world, if you want to go ahead and design all the animals and plants that inhabit it, or if you just really like mushrooms, you want to add them to every world that you build, that's okay. That's no big deal. You just write down whatever speaks to you, and maybe poke out a few feelers online or with the people in your life if you want to run a game in it. And, maybe the things that speak to you will speak to them too. And if not, that's okay too. We're just building this world to make ourselves happy after all, not to please other people. Now, the people, we got slimes. And I think they're going to be the only inhabitants of this world. Everything else is nice and simple. Plants, mushrooms, maybe some animals. Maybe we make a few jelly creatures. Those would be really cute. Maybe they're like balloon animals or something. That sounds really silly. Let's draw one of those in here. So we'll just make this one. Maybe it's a fungivore. It only eats fungi. It's got that nice big dopey ears and the long neck. Used to make balloon animals when I was younger. Not a whole lot of them. I wasn't very good at it. But it made me happy. It was fun to learn how to do. Real fun. Then we just add a slow button tail to this little fella. Our little pal here. Just about finished up. So that's maybe our little balloon creature. We had a little note that there's a button at the end, because that's the sort of detail that makes me happy when I'm building worlds. But you can do something different. Maybe we'll add a little nose here. We'll add a silly little smile. Doesn't that look nice now? Now, I'm sure if you showed this to me, I'd be ready to hop right into your world. But maybe you like some stripes on your creatures. That's nice. Everybody likes throwing stripes all over everything with no rhyme or reason. Just makes world builders happy. Maybe we add a few settlements around the center here. Let's go ahead and bump up the size of our brush here. Well, just add a few little dots to show where they are. And then we'll use a smaller black brush. Call this A, this B. You know what, maybe C is a little bit lonely down here. We'll go ahead and add another settlement in. A nice small settlement right next to the rim. Maybe this is the training settlement that the players are going to head off from if they go through the center of the planet. Maybe it's their cozy village that's well known if they're going to explore out all these different lands here. And then in that case, maybe you'd go ahead, grab these, and just spread them out a little bit, Maybe we just go ahead and move it out there, and then we grab this one right here. We go and move that out further. Now maybe our players are encouraged to explore more of our world as they travel around. We'll go ahead and make settlement D down here. Let's go ahead and switch back to black paint. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Should be writing. Oh, we got a selection layer here. Silly old me. There we go. We got rid of that. Now let's go ahead and add in around vector layer. Silly little Krita. I'm used to using it on a tablet now. That's okay. And then we can call these lots of silly little different things. I'll just go ahead. Settlements here. And what I like to do when I'm designing a settlement, maybe we'll call this Aleph. And maybe this is the settlement that has lots of mushrooms. That sounds nice to me right now. If I don't like it, I can go back later. Maybe we call this one Beta. And then we go ahead and say there's lots of ice here. Maybe it's frozen blue mana. So there's lots of blue mana mines here. I don't know, maybe that doesn't really fit with the world, but maybe it sort of condenses. Maybe it's where the... I don't know, do we want to make us associated with mana? Maybe we just don't. Maybe that'd be nicer, just for this world. I like that. And then let's just call this Cetacea. And then maybe we make this a nice little lakeside village. Or maybe we make the village in the lake. Why the heck not? That'd be nice and silly. Like a pool party. We'll note. Maybe all the people here, they're just having a good time. They're chilling in the lake. Maybe there's lots of silly little balloon creatures that they use for their pool rafts and all that good stuff. That sounds really nice to me. And then we got Delta here. And this is the, well, depending on how you're going to use it, I'll leave this one up to you. Do you think that this is some sort of threshold as they're about to cross into a fantastic through the center of the earth journey, traveling through different layers, avoiding the sun and hiding from the heat of it when it passes through the center of the disk, and the sheer overwhelming amounts of green mana that it puts out? Maybe it's more of a peaceful journey and it's a nice refreshing burst whenever it comes through. You can decide all that. Or maybe it's a cozy, small, hobbit-like town just nestled up in the mountains. I'm going to make it nestled up in the mountains anyways. Let's give it a mountainous feel. That's, let's see. I kind of like the idea of there being mountain climbing here all the time. I like the idea that since this world is inhabited by slimes, maybe we just slap everything on the side of a mountain, and then we make it lots of tall spires with maybe we'll make it tall spires with bridges in between. Maybe they're just ropes. They're just ropes in between. Since they're slams, they can just suction onto that rope and pull themselves across. That'd be really cute, I think. Also adds for an interesting layout for those of you that like to do 3D city design, Maybe you go ahead and flesh that out. Maybe you go ahead and build your own world with that idea. Make your own people. Maybe it's some sort of settlement hanging over an abyss that's everybody's gotta hang on to the cliffs. And they gotta grow a special plant that allows them to stick to it. Maybe they do that. And you know what? I don't think this settlement's gonna be very big. We'll just go ahead and trim the size down. I know I'm not erasing, I'm just using a black brush, but that's okay. Nobody else has got to see our handiwork here. We just make this a nice and small settlement. Just cozy it on down. It'll be our protagonist's start. I've just decided. Well, I've kind of decided over the course of this. And with that, I think you all have a pretty good idea of how you go about fleshing out your own little world, just to make you happy. Yeah. Now, there's a lot more that we could add to this world. Maybe I'll return to this world in future installments. Maybe I'll make a new world with every installment. Wouldn't that be nice? I think that I'll do that, in fact. But, if you do want to see this world fleshed out more, why don't you take what I've started here, just run with it, whatever direction your mind tells you to. If you want to tell an intense political drama thriller between Aleph and, yeah, what was our other world here now? Beta and Cetacea and Delta. Maybe you go ahead and do that, and the complex interactions of their trade networks. Maybe you go ahead and tell a story of exploration and discovery going through the center of the world. Maybe you go ahead and tell a story about settling on the outskirts, deep within the icy recesses of the far off, distant world here. Maybe there's some big trees here. And let's go ahead and draw those in. Some big trees that draw on that faint amounts of. Maybe they're red trees. Let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Oh, that's my problem. I'm drawing in. So maybe there's big branches. Maybe they look like coral. I think that look cute. So we got these big coral trees out on the edge of the world. Maybe we just add a few more things. I'm just really enjoying this. It's been a lot of fun, if I'm being honest. I hope that you can see how you could have fun building worlds too. Doesn't have to be anything stressful. You don't gotta worry about being best in a genre or whatnot. You can just go ahead and sit down, make something that makes you happy for the evening. So we got these nice coral plants, and I'll just go ahead and mark that they kind of stretch out across the rim here. And then maybe there's that blue layer. I kind of like the idea of this nice deep blue ice through beta. Just kind of around. Maybe there's a few areas where there isn't any ice. There's a nice clear path out to these forests for people to take. And maybe the ice is associated with blue mana. You know what? Maybe ice extra blue mana. Yeah, maybe though. So ice is just accumulated snow on the ground that builds up from all the blue mana from deeper within. And then maybe we have a green belt here. Maybe there's a nice big green belt. We have and then we kind of have an RGB theme going here. I know we talked about a few other colors of mana, but if you wanted to flesh it out, maybe make it more like mixing hues of colors with your magic system. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about the magic system too. Every good world needs a magic system. Well, that's just what I think. Obviously you don't need a magic system to make your world feel nice and cute to you. I just think it really helps with these sorts of cutesy tiny worlds to make them feel special. Add a little bit of magic to your world. Even if it's not called magic, that's fine. Just add a few floating islands or something or other. I like to do that, but you're free to do what you want. Make it look more like the real worlds. The fantastical elements stand out stronger. That's fine too. It's no big deal at all. Blue is ice. And then we got green. You know what? If you really wanted to, you could go ahead and make the night sky here. Maybe we go ahead and make it. I don't know. Maybe it's its own living biosphere, and it kind of touches sort of like we could take some inspiration from the old ideas of the firmament. Maybe it's maybe it's just its own world, on the hanging off. Well, maybe it's not hanging off. Maybe it's like standing on solid ground. You're just looking down on the disk of the planet, and it's got its own ecosystem up there that happens to emit all these nice warm colors for the ecosystem down below. Up above them, I suppose. That could be really cute. Or you could leave it as sort of a glass-like structure. I kind of like that idea. So then, we'll just add a nice cosmology tab here. We'll say that we got sun goes through tunnel center of disk. And then we got this night sky glass that turns green mana into red mana. That sounds nice. And then green is emitted by the sun, absorbed. Yeah, and then I like the idea we can just have and maybe it depends on what magic's used when they're created. Maybe it's what magic they've used most recently and they fade out to white every once in a while when they're hollow of magic. Or, like, not actively using magic. Maybe that'd be nice. And then what I'd really like to do, maybe there's a last. What would we make a ring out of? We've been really playing around with the idea of colors. Is there any color that we haven't really used yet? Maybe we can make a nice pink ring in towards the center. I don't know what that would be. You can decide that for yourself. Uh, yeah, with that, we'll just go ahead and wrap up here. We got that night sky glass. Yeah, and with that, we've got a nice little world. Lots of different things. Green is plants. Yeah. And you can decide how this world started. Are there any gods, or are you gonna go without for this world? It's. I think for me, I'm happy just having this be its own little enclosed ecosystem, along with the other side, of course. But you can decide what the other side looks like if you want to use this world. I hope that this sort of casual video format has allowed you to just feel out what it's like to flesh out a world building idea and how much fun that can be. What a silly little idea you can take, like slimes living on a disc with a sun that passes through the middle, and then flesh it out into something like this that really feels like with a little bit more polish. You could just let your players loose in it and just have a good old time for a one shot. And then, maybe flesh it out more if people enjoy it. It's not a big deal. Whatever makes you happy in your world building. Now, okay, and I just wanted to bring you back. This is the sort of thing that you notice when you go over revisions of your world. I just noticed that Aleph has lots of mushrooms, and then we got this red coral growing on the outside of the world already. And well, you know what else is red? Our mushrooms. So let's just go ahead and slide this right out. And we can make it nice and accessible if we want to. Maybe slide it on over here. Maybe that looks nice. I like that. And now you got sort of these locations strung out along the world. And if you wanted to make it easier to travel between. You could obviously move beta over to this side of the world. Maybe that'd be nice. But yeah, that's just the first little bit. And as we look over this, I'm sure we'll notice more things that sort of line up like that. And that's one of the things you really notice the more you do world building. There's lots of things that just snap into place where, oh yeah, that is a thing that I introduced 5 years ago during this campaign. Yeah, you're right. That does work like that. Let's just go ahead and synchronize those two things, and then it all checks out. All right, you have a good night now. Or wait, well, we'll bring you to the other out. Yeah, just cut this part out. Thank you all for listening. You have a lovely evening or night or morning or whenever you're listening to this. And you drink plenty of water. And don't get ear infections. And don't swim in the water when they tell you that there's a dangerous amount of algae in it. Okay, okay. All right, bye now.